The next version will have 256 cores.
And the technical structure, if you bring in the architectural model and it has, say, the architectural panels, are you adding detail to those panels? In the technical structure, or are you remodeling?
You can. We had an instance recently where so we had some panels at a project in the UK that had bamboo, a rubber mould or a rubber seat in the mould that created bamboo impressions on the concrete. We didn't actually go to the extent of modelling that in. But if that had been modelled in software, it was actually done in 2D. But if it had been modelled in software, we brought that in, showing that in the model. For this, from a structural point of view, whether you actually need to show that in the structural model is another thing entirely. And we convinced them not to try and start cutting those into the ponds, because that would be pretty interesting.
There's also a contractual issue at the moment we have. So a lot of people receive these 3D models and actually physically won't use them, because contractually it'll say that you can't use it.
That's
so, you can't dimension from it, it's not a scale thing. So contractually, you can pass it down, you can use it for visual checks. So at the moment we're going to try and force the clients and the contractors higher up to say, no, you will provide a model that is correct, that can be worked with, because we can't convert IFC objects into native objects. But if they've modelled it badly in the first place, in the other software, you just pass the errors all the way down, you see that. So at the moment, a lot of guys do actually just physically remodel it, so then they know it's correct, and then they can take the liability of that.
As much as the functionality is there now, the protocols and processes are the most important thing to put in place, and the most difficult, just legally and contractually.
So you don't sort of round trip back into the architectural model. The architect wouldn't essentially take the structural stuff back into his model.
They could do, yeah. They could do it very much. Again, it all depends on the process and the requirements of it. But we can export to IFC in the same way that.
Tekla, is it server based or is it sort of PC based? Like, do you have an IFC model server sitting behind it, or is it a database?
That's the eventual idea. That's a good point. That's the eventual idea. Our vision is that there will eventually be on all projects a model server for that project, and all the reference models will be sent to that central server. That's the ultimate goal. Tekla is a server-based software. We have a FlexNet server system, so everything can be stored.
It's sort of independent BIM, because the structural engineer would maintain their own BIM model and would be responsible for bringing in the architectural and MEP stuff.
Yeah.
But eventually, you would see that there's a central model server.
So that, I would assume the contractor, the main contractor, or even the client now. Clients are getting more involved and really starting to push for BIM. But I would see them as managing that central model, if you like. With all these.
So there is a role there for model managers.
Yeah, there is. I think so. Yeah, definitely. The BIM manager role, I think, is going to become more and more important.
There's left Gronholm as part of the Build Smart group, if you like, and they talk about this transaction-based way of working. So everyone's got their model on this server that everyone's importing to their various software, so I can see all of their HVAC and their piping and their architectural model, and likewise they can see my IFC version of my model on their side as well. And it'll be a transaction-based thing where you say, this member with an ID number or name of this, can you please change it? It'll be like a transaction-based thing, so that's kind of where we're going towards with the IFC concept and shared reference models, but it's a work in progress, if you like, I suppose. We do actually have examples already with model synchronization. We do that already at the moment. So you can have a server, an FTP site, if you like, somewhere, and what will happen is the detailer, the engineer, and the contractor and the fabricator can all get access to the one model from one central location. And that happened on a project which was actually I probably can't talk about it because it's being broadcast, but it was a project in Australia, like a petrochemical plant. Thai fabricator, English detailers, things.
And you're uploading just the changes on the entire model each time.
Yeah, the auto synchronization. We have a multi-user system with data structures, so 10 people, 20 people, 30 people can work on one project at any one time. And when you do a save, it saves your changes, because especially in Qualmanage members, you'll see that every part has an ID. So when you save the changes, just those IDs get updated. And of course, with the synchronization, it's the same thing, but that information doesn't get saved in a small network in an office. It's internet-based network. But yeah, that's already happening.
Okay. So we'll be hanging around for a bit. All right.
Just as one more question. from a building perspective, I suppose, technical perspective, where is the market booming at the moment? Say, are the Germans leading the way, are the US leading the way, are the Aussies? And how do they manage to get the market moving?
I would say the US really heavily moving forward. Middle East as well to a certain extent. I mean, in the Middle East there are difficulties just in terms of keeping people on the project for an extended period of time with all the expat labour and things like that. That's a bit of a nightmare in terms of trying to get that whole life cycle. The US are really pushing it. I mean, they have all sorts of, BIM workshops and conferences and and these kind of things, and they're really starting to push it. Scandinavia as well, I guess. Maybe our head office being in Finland, they're really pushing it over there as well. Skanska are really starting to move forward. You've got guys. Our MD visited a site in Finland. The guy was a 64-year-old guy sat with a motion tablet PC with an image of the model, scrolling around and identifying the next day's work or the next week's work, and passing that information on to his site staff. So it is happening, and we're all the time just trying to gather information and examples of it happening, so that we can try and give people a bit of comfort that it's not as said, it's not Star Wars stuff. It's okay.
I think the procurement methodology in the States lend themselves more towards BIM, where it's traditionally here it's design, bid, build, where the design is by a separate design team, and the architect, engineers design, quantity surveyors, costs or prepare bills of quantities, and the contractor comes in at a later stage.
Yeah.
In the States, there's much earlier contractor involvement. And there's more benefits there for the contractor to actually do stuff in 3D when they're actually designing and building. Here we design, we bid, and then we build. In the States, it seems to be more design and build.
It's as I said about Finland, for example, the engineers do the detailing, so there's a much better workflow rather than the engineers who do the conceptual design and then pass it on to someone else to detail. But I think that in that instance, where you have those situations where each separate part is done by different people at different times, I think that's again where Tekla starts to lend itself on the basis that people are going to start using different, going to be using different softwares. And the idea is that you're trying to pass the model. And it's difficult though. The timing is the biggest problem, because it'll be in conceptual design for so long, and then get to the stage where right, we've got to build it and we've got 8 weeks. It's well, what am I going to do? I haven't got time. I haven't got time to plan it. So it is as much about sorting out the process as it is the software.
Yeah, as you guys were saying about the legal issues, there's issues with forms of contract and that here, but there's a good paper by, I think it's the Legal Counsel for Mortensen Construction in the States, which looks at the legal implications of BIM, and it's 20-30 pages long paper. Very good paper, even though it's American based and it's a different system of law. They maintain, look, it's not an issue. And it's worth for anyone to look at it. It's a paper. It's on Mortensen's website in the States, and it's their legal counsel have a paper on BIM and its implementation, and it's very informative on
There is a fear of architects allowing releasing the BIM out to other people, and that they could then be held liable.
Well, that paper discusses that particular example, and they maintain, look, it's not an issue.
I mean, the fact that they can do it in the US, which is basically patent litigation, and everything else.
I mean,
is that's the fact that they can do it over there and do it very successfully is testament to, I think, the fact that you can get over those legal implications. It's just something to consider, I think, as you're setting up.
There's always the difficulty, who purchased the software, who drives the software. Is it the client? Is it the architect? Is it the contractor? Is it the subcontractor? And really, that's a big issue. I think today was about how pragmatic BIM is and how useful it is as a tool for constructors and fabricators, the whole supply chain. And it's not necessarily about putting BIM into preliminaries and saying everyone must use it. It's really some of the contractors taking the lead, taking the initiative, investing in this technology and using it, and bringing it to the tender interviews and winning contracts on the back of it.
Well, in the States as well, I mean, a lot of the contractors do use it after they've successfully been awarded the contract, where they will go and they will spend the money and model the building and use it for construction, and use it to identify variations and issues with the design.
If you tell a client, I'm going to give you a model, a BIM model, a handover model for your building that you can then use to manage your asset, when the building is complete.
Oh, absolutely.
That's huge. That's, downstream, the
whole life cycle cost element of it. There's huge benefits involved, and I just think.
One instance that Mala had is that they actually, at the end of the project, their project handover was a tablet PC with a model, with all the, all the facilities management and maintenance and everything in there, just literally handed it over to the client. The client was absolutely blown away. So that's what we're trying to now push, is to speak to more clients, and we're making a bit of progress on that basis.
And then you probably have to have a shed load of files, box files anyway, of drawings and manuals and so on, whatever, because people need to be able to feel and touch and read these documents.
So from a marketing perspective then, you think, well, Taylor, consider to get BIM into the marketplace is the client is the one that you're approaching basically. So if Ireland want to push BIM, they should look at the clients. At the clients
to generate interest, I think, and to get clients and because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are in a position to really push it. And that's what we've been doing. So we've been trying to present as many things as we can with large retail clients and so on and so forth there, just to really try and get them to say, oh, hang on, I don't want a storeroom full of paper. That at the very least is a fire hazard. I want an electronic model with everything in it. And I want to be able to look at my building. Yeah. But fortunately, it goes a bit too far. A lot of the clients actually would like, a fully rendered, beautiful walkthrough with how the light falls on the signs and the apples and and all that kind of thing. So on that basis, we're looking where we can actually get into 3D Studio Max, for example. So you can then start to create that from the Tekla model, and Google SketchUp as well. With an export to that.
Yeah, so the big benefit with the clients, approaching the clients to try and sell out into them, is that you can say, look, when you're finished, you have a full representation, 3D model of your structure. When you come to extend your building, because of course a lot of these guys building, knowing they'll be plan permission later, they'd have to go out and survey it. They go, that's what you've got, that's what's in the ground, and then they could continue straight from that, and that's like a good idea. They actually like that idea. So we're trying that angle as well.
And we are looking for a client to speak at the November meeting. If anyone knows any clients, any people that are commissioning buildings, we have approached the Tesco's, the Aldi's, the Lidl's of this world. Not much success at the moment, but we certainly want that message in November for someone to stand up and say, we want to work a different way. We want to use open source solutions so we can move between vendors if need be. And so if anyone has any contacts or names, let us know. And I know Brad, you're working on the Marta. The client is who? Is the Irish government? Yeah. So, and someone obviously was persuaded to go down this route.
As soon as we've got one, we'll be bringing it.
Okay.
So we'll take them everywhere.
Okay.
I should pack them up in my suitcase. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.